Leicester City 0, Bournemouth 1 yesterday. Terrific win for Bournemouth. For Leicester, just more trouble having parted company, obviously, with Brendan Rodgers. Jesse Marsch is one of the men that looks as if the possibilities here, but all sorts of things still to be sorted and to stay up. And it doesn't look as if Leicester City are going to do exactly that at all at the moment. They're right in the bottom three, and they are in deep trouble right now. Chris Foran is Leicester till I die, and Craig Beasley up the cherries in all departments. Gentlemen, welcome. Tough for both of you. I'm going to start with Bournemouth, actually, because that was a massive 3 points, first of all, for you yesterday.
Oh, it was huge. It was huge. We've got 30 points now. Of course, we've got this sequence of win, lose at the moment. So we need to get a couple of results going together. We've got Spurs next, and then we've got 3 games where that's going to be critical for us actually surviving in the Premier League. So those 3 games are against West Ham, Southampton, and Leeds, and 2 of those of the 3 are at home. So we're very optimistic now, and we can see the finishing line. I think personally 36 points should be enough.
I think you're spot on with that. I really do. As far as Chris, you're concerned, Man City next. Couldn't be any worse than that. Then there's Wolves improving all the time. Leeds will be fighting for their life, as will Everton. Fulham, Liverpool, Newcastle, and finishing off against West Ham.
Thanks for making me feel better.
I know, but I'm with. Look, I love Leicester City as a football club. It perhaps impacted more than ever with what happened in COVID, obviously, with the bulk of the owners' revenues coming from duty free, and nobody was travelling anywhere in the world for 2.5 years, and Brendan Rodgers was doing a decent enough job, but you just didn't have it. You haven't had enough consistency, which is very unlike Leicester have been in the last few seasons.
A lot of people, well, especially Liverpool fans, said when we appointed Brendan Rodgers, he'll have the good 3 seasons and then it'll all go wrong. And I remember when we signed Claudio Ranieri all those years ago, all the Italian journalists were saying, he'll have 1 good season, then it will all go wrong. They were right, and so were the Liverpool fans. There's no plan B. The players didn't appear to be playing for him. He had to go. The problem was that Top left it so late, 10 games to go, when whoever we're looking for, if we want to get a decent manager in, they're going to look, well, you might be in the Championship next season. I don't want to be down there. So it's made the job a lot harder. Brendan's been replaced by his first team coach, who has looked at the situation to us as fans and gone, do you know what? Everything that Brendan was doing, I'll do exactly the same. Now, how do you take a team that's been playing that badly, repeat it and hope that you're going to start winning? Palace absolutely battered us. The worst 45 minutes of football I have seen. We struggled then against Villa. We lost 2-1. We played a lot better against Bournemouth, and taking nothing away from Bournemouth. We don't have a good record against them, but yeah, again, they scored and we just sort of sat back.
Yeah, I get, and I haven't watched enough of Leicester City this season when you talk about a plan B, but
I've watched too much.
Yeah, but is there not the responsibility of a lot of this too is on the players, isn't it?
Look, the players can only go or do what they're told to do, and I don't think any player walks across that white line and says, "I'm going to have a bad game today." That said, we can't sack 15 players. You can sack 1 manager, and then the manager goes, and you've got to look who else is running the club. If that's the chief executive, you've got Susan Whelan, John Rudkin, Andrew Neville, but they're all top appointments, and he has to take his fair share. Yes, he wanted to stay by Brendan because the terrible FFP window we had last summer, we couldn't buy anybody.
Yeah.
But you've got to, at some point, look at it, take blue tinted spectacles off and say, okay, we had a bad start to the season. Then we had a bit of a good run before the World Cup. But the teams we were playing, we should have been beating anyway. Since we've returned, we've won. Well, we've got 8 points since Christmas. That is relegation. I've got the roadmap out looking where Stoke and Barnsley and Bristol City are. It's terrible. It's just, yes, he had to go, but he should have gone at the start, after the World Cup.
I feel your anguish. I mean, 15 games now without a clean sheet.
Again, we let Schmeichel go in the summer, and I guess it was kind of the right time because he had a bad season last season, but then the defence weren't particularly brilliant in front of him. We promoted Danny Ward, who wasn't cheap. He was 12 million from Liverpool, so for number 2, it wasn't cheap. He had an awful start, but like I said, the defence in front of him wasn't brilliant. It is a problem, And yesterday, going back to the game, it is a must-win game. It was a 6-pointer. So what do? We start with 2 defensive midfielders. And this is at home. We start with one up front that hasn't worked all season. All 30,000 people in the stadium can see what's happening. And yet Top sits there with his TV in front of him and looking at a manager that's just doing exactly the same as the guy that he's just sacked.
So I don't know whether Jesse Marsh is the man that the board are looking at more than anybody else. They've obviously, someone's made it known that he's who they do want. So would you expect, or do fans now want the rest of Brendan's staff to leave now, whatever, and just get somebody from somewhere in, even if it's a stopgap, in the way that Palace have done with Roy again, Chelsea have done with Frank Lampard? I mean, is there nobody out there that has Leicester through and through that might come in and be able to be part of this?
There's nobody with the managerial experience. There are managers out there. A few of them have gone, the likes of Sean Dyche, because we didn't act quickly enough, so he's disappeared. And Craig will know I don't want Scott Parker. Thank you very much. I've just done a show with a Leeds fan who's totally put me off Jesse Marsh. But why when you sack a manager do you not get rid of his whole team? And bring somebody in who's just got fresh ideas. That's all we're asking for. We expected when Brendan went and Adam took over to see different plans, a different plan A, a plan B occasionally, different formations. We've seen nothing. It's like he's been on the phone to Brendan and gone, what am I doing, Brendan? I'll stick 2 defensive midfielders on for a game you've got to win. It's at home, it doesn't matter. You need somebody to come in, fresh ideas, and just do what they can for the next 8 games.
I feel you're hurt. I mean, I really do feel that as well. Craig, for Bournemouth as well and everything now, the great days under Eddie Howe, it was finally a touching tribute and thank you from him to the fans when they came down, for the cup again and everything this season. But, there is a real opportunity here for Bournemouth now, I believe, as well, to get themselves out and consolidate a little bit, because all of these, I just think the temperament within these squads now has to be, whether they only play occasionally or whatever, there's too many of them for me in each of these squads now, and there's too many of them that hide behind not taking responsibility. And I think suddenly Bournemouth have understood that, come on, we've got fans we've got to look after here. It's a club we've got to look after here. We don't want to go down. And perhaps that's where this has changed just a little bit.
Yeah, completely agree with you, Mark. So, of course, last week we were at home to Fulham. And the first half, in all honesty, we played like a League One side. It was poor. It was terrible. But what they did in the second half, and full credit to Gary O'Neill, I know he's come under a lot of stick from our fan base. He made those changes, brought Tavernier on. Atara was really, really struggling. And we changed the game. We turned that game on its head. And there's a real desire. Players like Phil Billing are really showing and taking the fight to teams like Leicester. And I really feel, I know Chris well, I do really feel for Leicester. because I didn't realise how bad it was until I watched that game yesterday.
Yeah.
Maddison's pass back, it just seems devoid of confidence. But like you say, Chris, there's none of that going forward. There's none of that attacking. There's none of that going for it. You know, if, say, for example, and in my view, if we went down, but we went down fighting, you know, that would be better than going down with a whimper. At this moment in time, and I know this sounds horrible, Chris, Leicester are going down with a whimper.
Well,
and it's sad to see.
Gary, one more for you on this as well. When we talk about Craig, Gary O'Neill, is he doing as good a job as he possibly can, do you think, at the moment? Is he, you know, he's not as fashionable as some of the others who are coming in to sort of rescue other clubs, but it still is about the players as well, just giving everything. And if you go down, you go down.
He's a very young manager. He's starting out. It's probably a step above him, the Premier League. However, he's doing the best with what he's got. Don't get me wrong, there is better managers out there. I think, you know, at the end of the season, go down, stay up. I think Bill Foley will replace him. But at the same time, I think he is doing what he can with, and taking into account our squad at the start of the season, it wasn't the strongest. I don't think Scott Park had the right to say what he did, but it wasn't the strongest. He managed to turn that round, a 0-0 draw with Wolves, then beat Forest, and then get a bit of a run. Believe it or not, between the Liverpool defeat and up to that Southampton game, everybody else had been beaten in the Premier League, apart from us. So it really shows how well he did after the World Cup. He did struggle a bit, mainly because of the amount of injuries the side had. But I think he's done a very, very good job. You know, I really do champion him. I don't think he's a big enough name for next season. And Bill Foley, I think, will want to take Bournemouth to the next level. But then again, you know, there is that danger, like Leicester have found, where he tries to take us to the next level. It backfires. We get it wrong, and we end up in trouble.
Yeah, look, you make some great points on all of that. Chris, for you, I guess, I mean, a player like Maddison, we know his quality, but the problem these days is if you go down, he knows he's going to get a move.
Well, he's only got a year left on his contract anyway. And, I mean, what he did yesterday, I mean, you know, come on, he's dug us out of it in enough games to earn a bit of credit. We didn't sell Tielemans a couple of seasons ago, and we should have done. And I mean, the Leicester, you know, the way that we run our club is we will buy these players in, like, say, Harry Maguire, and then sell them to other clubs that don't want to risk buying these young players, but will soon pay 80 million, you know, when they're established. That's part of the way we run the club. We were trying to get into Europe, like Craig said, you know, we were chasing the dream. 2 fifth-place finishes, which for a club like us was amazing, and you know we shouldn't knock it.
No.
That is when sort of we should have cashed in. Maybe we're asking too much for him or not. I don't know. The Tielemans that scored the winning goal in the FA Cup is not the Tielemans that's been playing for Leicester this season. He's been played in a more defensive role. Surprise, surprise. I keep coming back to that word, don't I? Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, who, whatever you say about him, he's not the finished product, but my God, he runs at the defence. He absolutely scares the defence. Well, we'll put him in a defensive role as well. Maddison, we're gonna lose him in the summer. Definitely if we go down. Unfortunately, the players we will lose if we go down are not the players that we want to lose. It's the players that we don't want to lose. But hey, that's football.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tielemans is going to go on a free anyway. And I think, you know, he's not going to stick by us. Why would he? You know, he's better than the Championship.
Well, I think you both made some great points. And we're going to obviously here on the Sunday Night Club watch the progress of all of the clubs very much involved in this. I'm sure that we're going to be able to welcome both of you back as well onto the shows. Fantastic as always, and you've both put us in the picture, which is exactly wanted. Chris and Craig, thank you very much indeed. I wish you both all the very best. In the same way as I do my club, Cambridge United. We won this weekend. Somehow we've got to get something at Bolton tomorrow in League One. I'm not sure how we're going to do that, but they left nothing out there at the Abbey Stadium on Saturday, which was quite fantastic. And whatever happens on Monday, it's Peterborough United in a home derby that could be vitally important. We're going to stick with sides now that have had some financial problems this season. We're going to get an update with West Bromwich Albion, which is very important. Find out about Reading and where they are with the 6-point deduction. And Southend United, where things just aren't going the way they should be whatsoever. We'll also keep you right up to date with the Masters. Koepka is out on the second, still 2 up against Jon Rahm.